Listen, if you have a team like the Warriors and you know they're going to shoot the ball consistently from the outside and there's going to be positional rebounds that are going to be longer rebounds coming off, it's crazy to me how far off the ball they're playing when Steph shoots and it's like 4 jerseys from the other team are around the rebound and not a single Warriors. Can you help me understand why when I see a Warriors player shoot the ball, the other 4 guys are like almost at half court and no one's around the rebound?
It must just be their offensive strategy that they're not going to keep guys back. They're going to try to stop the transition game from the opposing team, and they're not going to keep 2 guys, because what's become the sort of this fad in the NBA is the back taps and extra possessions. Yeah. And I always thought like that, the back taps alone, I felt like got Tristan Thompson $80 million because he would get the Cavaliers 5, 7, 8 possessions extra sometimes from just volleyballing it back to the guards. And sometimes when Bo gets in, they do that, but that's really the only guy that does. You'll see Draymond once in a while. If he's down there, he'll try to do it, but they don't do it nearly as much as you see a team like Toronto. Even in the fourth quarter the other night, the Warriors got a miss that they needed, and immediately they gave up a back tap offensive rebound to Toronto, and it set the shot clock back to 14. I think they gave up another one right after that, did it again, and then they were able to score. And they milked 40-plus seconds off the clock off of 2 offensive rebounds. So I think it's just team strategy. They play small sometimes, so it's like, why are you going to have Steph and Klay and maybe another guard trying to get a rebound? Just get them back, stop the transition game. Try to slow the other team offensively down. Don't let them get out in transition versus you if you're going smaller. That's the only thing I can think of because, again, you're seeing it with Toronto is they're getting extra possessions off of that, and Golden State's really not.
Yeah, it bugs me. I mean, I guess, again, I don't have any rooting interest, but if I were rooting, I would root for just to see what Golden State could do and to keep this series going. And these shots from 3-point line and then there's no one around for the rebound. It's just kind of like, it just feels very lacking momentum and you can't keep it going, and Toronto can. And you're right. That, I think the situation you're talking about, I remember it was, you've got 2.5 minutes left in the game. I think Toronto was at that point up by 7 or 9. It was a great opportunity for Golden State to try to milk the score a little bit here and there. And Toronto got 40 seconds off the clock, 3 possessions, and then all of a sudden there's 1 minute and 48 seconds left and they scored. And at that point, it's just demoralizing if you're the Warriors, because it's like, well, we just gave up time and points and we couldn't afford to give up either one. And we gave up both. So it's just something I wanted to ask you about, because I see the Warriors shoot a lot and then that's it, a one shot and they're done.
Yeah, only thing I can think of is offensively, that's just part of their game plan in order to stop, so they don't have multiple guys trying to get a rebound. It's a long rebound, goes over the 2 guys' head, and automatically Toronto has some kind of 4-on-2, 4-on-3 type fast break where they have numbers they can get in transition and find shooters and get easy points that way, where Golden State's trying to eliminate that and slow them down some. That's the only thing that I can think, because it's a big effort play. But I guess too, when you're playing guys like Andrew Bogut and DeMarcus Cousins and they have a vertical leap that's a combined 8 inches, they're not going to get many offensive rebounds at that point, the way that they play. So maybe it's just as slow as those guys are, it's just get out of there and sort of get back and let's just play defense. I got one more question for you before we get out of here on the NBA Finals. Steph played 40-plus minutes in Game 3, and they were a hard 40-plus minutes because he was getting wore out on the defensive side. He was carrying the load on the offensive side. You're going to have a less than 100% Klay Thompson in Game 4 and no KD. Do you worry about Steph's ability to keep up with this workload, because he's going to have to carry another big load and shoulder that on Friday night?
I do. I mean, he's a small guy. He's had ankle problems in the past. Thankfully, nothing has really popped up that we know of right now. But he can't shoulder the load like a bigger guy can, like a forward, like a Durant, like a LeBron, like a Kawhi. It's just not going to be possible for him as a small guard to do that. Yeah, he's going to put up a lot of points, but he can't give you a lot of the other intangibles necessarily that some of those bigger players can to control the momentum in a game. Boy, if Klay Thompson doesn't play meaningful minutes and you're not getting much out of Draymond and Cousins, I just don't think you can expect Curry to be the savior of the team, even if he has a phenomenal game like he did in game 3, because let's be honest, the loss in game 3, I think we'd both agree it was not Curry's fault, and he did everything in his power and they still got blown out. And so it just really comes down to the fact that Curry, at his position, at his size, he just can't shoulder that load.
And look, I don't want to steal a take because I heard this morning from Nick Wright, who I typically don't like because he's a LeBron groupie like you are.
He's a LeBron homer.
But he did talk about the fact of when you put all these guys on one team, you lessen the greatness of a guy like Steph, and getting to watch him be the guy and be like, oh my gosh, like how many nights a year could Steph do this and get to see this, even if it's every 5th game, just watch him go crazy and nearly put up 50 and do it pretty efficiently for a guard. I do hate that what we've talked about with all these players migrating to the same teams and you don't get guys spread out like you did in the 90s where you could have these type of just really epic performances by star players. And when you have KD and Klay and Draymond, you have all these mouths to feed and you're limiting Steph to 15 or 16 shots and you're almost limiting his scoring ceiling to the high 20s or 30s. You don't get to see these kind of great individual performances. So that is the one thing that kind of came to mind when I heard that. I thought that was a really interesting take because it's what we've talked about is a lot of times these players' greatness, even a guy like Harden, getting to watch what he did for that stretch. I mean, it was so fun to watch him every night because it's like, well, he's going to get 30. It's just, can he get 50 or 60 or 70? And getting to watch Steph, and it's like, if that game would have been closer and he had any bit of help, I think he would have easily been over 50 points.
Yeah, I think the counterpoint to that, I mean, if I were debating it with Nick Wright, would be the fact that what has that gotten Russell Westbrook? What has that gotten James Harden? I mean, yes, you would see Steph probably have fantastic individual performances on a more regular basis. But I bet if we could talk to Steph, he would give all of that up, and he has, to have 3 championship rings and going for a 4th because Westbrook and Harden don't have that.
No, and I agree with that too, but Westbrook's his own worst enemy because he had KD with him. I'm just saying if there wasn't a team like the Warriors and you had your stars spread out where 30 teams had a star, not 10 teams have 2 to 3 stars each, Steph wouldn't be playing teams like the Warriors. You would be playing teams. Every team would have like that one superstar, that one max guy. So you'd be seeing these epic individual performances more often. Like what we saw LeBron have to do last year when he went 51 points in game 1 of that series. If going forward, if they put 2 or 3 stars around him, it's going to be hard to ever see that from him again on a night in, night out type of a basis. Definitely not. Right. You're going to see it every night. So I just thought that was an interesting take because it's something we've talked about where you almost feel like some of these stars are limited because they have to be, because now it's like, well, if I want to win a title, I'm going to have to go somewhere else. Like if Giannis goes to a team with 2 or 3 other players, he's not going to be the same guy that he could potentially be in Milwaukee, where he could be another walking triple double and a guy that could go get 35 or 40 every night. Because when you play with other stars, as we've seen in Golden State, somebody's got to sacrifice something, whether it's minutes or shot.
I think the NBA would probably prefer that it went back to that. I mean, let's go back to the 90s. Jordan was on the Bulls and Patrick Ewing was on the Knicks and Shaq was on the Magic and Olajuwon was on the Rockets. And you go on where, Gary Payton's on the Sonics and Karl Malone's on the Jazz. And, you can keep going on down the list. Barkley's on the Suns, and you get my point, is that they were all spread around the league. And I think the NBA would prefer that.
Yeah. And especially today where the NBA is all about star power and a star driven league. And when you would have those kind of performances, I think it would help the league because it's more guys, it's more teams. It's why I think it's good for the league that a guy like Zion is going to New Orleans, because it's a franchise that needs a star. It needs another guy. It needs a reason for that fan base and the media and stuff to go there, because Anthony Davis doesn't seem like he wants to be there anymore.
I was going to say that town needs a star. Wait, Anthony Davis has been there for a number of years, but look what he's done for them.
Well, he hasn't been there since January of 2019. They can't play him thanks to Clutch. So anyways, Eric, I'm not even going to ask you for a prediction on this series. There's just too much up in the air with the Warriors. There's so many injuries right now. We could come out and say something that we think is going to happen or predict what's going to happen in this series. Klay could be out. KD could come back. He might be out. You never know what's going to happen. But I do want to get your prediction on the U.S. Open because you are 2 for 2, and I think I need to go find somewhere where I can gamble a little bit and ride your hot streak here. So are we going 3 for 3 here at the Open, or am I going to go bet on this pick and I'm going to lose my money?
Wow. Well, if I could give you 3 guys and you would bet all Jesus. 3 of them and then the field, sheesh. Golf is a tough thing. I mean, it's a very fickle sport, right? The fact that I'm 2 for 2 is just luck, really. And I've got a little bit of knowledge. Well, I've got a lot of knowledge on the PGA.
Wait, hold on a second. Listen, I'm trying to set you up here. Like, don't you ever watch Skip Bayless? Like, you're the number one guy. You know everything. I mean, Stephen A., you got to be the Nostradamus of golf here. You could pigeonhole yourself here into the golf guy.
Yeah, maybe I should be more like.
Bad thing, but you could be the golf guy that you could get this stuff and drive our ratings. Not telling people you're lucky.
Oh, well, if PGA Tour drives our ratings, that would impress me a lot. I mean, look at how Brandel Chambly drives the Golf Channel ratings. That guy's a moron. And believe me, I can't tweet him either. I'm already blocked. So if you gave me Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and Tiger Woods at Pebble Beach, I'd put my money on one of those 3. But since you're going to tie me to one, let's go with Brooks Koepka. I think he wins again. And I don't think it's easy because I think the guys I just mentioned, Dustin Johnson and Tiger Woods, I think are going to contend for this U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. But I just like the headspace that Brooks Koepka's in right now. His game is solid. He's got the length off the tee. He seems to control his irons well. He's a streaky putter, but man, his mental game is really sharp. It's probably about as sharp as I've ever heard people talk about since a young Tiger Woods in the early 2000s. So give me Brooks Koepka again.
All right, and I won't hold you to that because we may end up doing a show before the U.S. Open because it's still not till Father's Day weekend. So, I may give you time to change, but we don't know what's going to go on with this Golden State and Toronto series of how it's going to affect our ability to get the next pod out. So I at least wanted to make sure in case the U.S. Open started and we didn't get to record a pod next Thursday to throw this at you. Now, let me ask you one more question on golf. Watching Tiger Woods' final round at the Memorial, did that inspire you that he's a guy that's starting to put it together a little more? Did that give you a little more confidence in him after what you saw at Bethpage Black?
No. I mean, yes and no, because yes, it was nice to see him play well at the Memorial and finish in the top 10. But his performance at Bethpage Black, I think, was the more I'm looking at it and the more I look at what he did and how he prepared, or let me say didn't prepare, I honestly think that Tiger looked at that course and said, I'm not going to contend there. And I really don't care. And he didn't put any extra effort in. And we've talked about how much rest has become part of his routine now, how much he values taking care of his body, which he didn't in the past. And I think he looked at the Masters and the U.S. Open as the 2 this year, potentially Royal Portrush, although that's a big unknown with the Open Championship overseas. But I definitely think the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach had to be on his mind. So you look at his preparation, you look at the fact that he played Jack's tournament in Memorial and played well, and now he goes to Pebble Beach, a place that he loves, a place that he's had a lot of success at. Of course, he's had lots of success in that area, in that area of California with Torrey Pines and everything else. I mean, his comfort level is just going to be really high there at Pebble Beach. So the Bethpage Black miscut thing, it just didn't really matter to me in terms of whether or not I thought Tiger was still a strong pick for the U.S. Open. Because honestly, Justin, I'm flip-flopping between Brooks Koepka and Tiger Woods as my 2 leading candidates, with sprinkle in the fact that I think Dustin Johnson could play spoiler.
Oh my God, you just gave the Fox executives a stroke if they get a Brooks Koepka Tiger Woods final pairing on Sunday.
You'd give me a stroke.
Yeah, that'll be exactly what they want. So, Rick, let's talk about an NFL story that's popped up, and it was one of the more puzzling situations that came out of this most recent Super Bowl, in the fact that one of the most explosive playmakers in the league, and Todd Gurley, really did not have an impact in that Super Bowl, only 10 carries for 35 yards in that game. And now the news has come out that the days of Todd Gurley being a bell cow back are over. Yeah. So when you heard that, what in the world went through your mind at that point, that the guy that's 24 years old that just cashed in with the Rams may be a situational running back going forward?
couple things went through my mind. Number one, the guy is 24 years old, and we just went through all of the drama and BS with Le'Veon Bell, and Bell is 27 years old. So he's 3 years older. You see that McVay is